Hey Moguls, it's Dr. T here, and just happy Mogul Monday to you. We're just going live again today so that I can bring forth some amazing upgrades for you to be able to come into your Mogul self, tap into that inner Mogul so you can achieve health, wealth, success, and the life that you really desire. Now, today, we're really going to help you connect to that Mogul that is inside of you. And this is really important because sometimes people can feel like, oh my God, they got to go do this and go do that. And it can be really, really stressful to make a transformation. And yet, what we want to know is there is a self that is in there that wants to emerge. And so today, we're going to connect you how to bring that Mogul out from inside of you, that Mogul meaning that influential, powerful, successful, positively contributing person, or in short, that powerful person, that leader. So in order to achieve the great health, wealth, and success and the life that you want, we're taught to go outside. We're taught to, got to go here, got to go there, got to do all these things. And the reality is that Mogul lives inside of us. So today, with our time, we're going to go through a series of things that you can do to really connect with that inner Mogul inside of you so you can effectively allow that self to emerge and come through and really be activated in the world doing what it wants to do. So we're going to go through those steps. You're going to learn exactly what you need to do to tap into that inner Mogul to achieve that health, wealth, and success. And I'm so grateful we can be connected today. So I want to have you really tune on in, because when you get all of these steps that we're going to go through and these upgrades, that even one of them are worth millions of dollars to you. And even, everybody has different ways they value life. I'm not saying money is the only value, but it's a way we can calculate things. So these kind of upgrades are literally on their own worth millions of dollars. So I want to have you receive the upgrade, effectively take the millions of dollars of value in, and allow that programming to come into you so that you can then have it creating your reality. Because right now, and this is the first part of how to tap into that inner Mogul, there is programming that is running your reality. And it's doing some things that are beneficial and a lot of things that are not for most people. And if we want to connect to how the great creators, influencers, and top moguls of reality, the most powerful, influential people who are leading the pack, how they achieve health, wealth, and success, we've got to understand that there is different programming that is running them than is running you. So first and foremost, number one is to recognize that there is programming running you that needs to be reprogrammed. And that's what we're doing today. So let me talk about that programming and what's going on there. So we all know what it's like when you are completely intending to do a certain set of things, be productive in a certain way, accomplish certain things. And when you have these priorities, these goals, these aspirations, these ambitions, and these dreams, and yet you can literally just observe the way in which this self that you are goes and does these other things. It's like, oh, I want to be healthy, and this other self does this thing, this what we're going to call your not self or your lower self. It's not your Mogul self for sure. It has another agenda. It wants to do this. It wants to do this. These are parts of you that are programmed by your experiences in the past and by the system that we all exist in to do certain things. And yet how we know that inner Mogul is in there is because We all know that feeling that like you're inside of there and you're watching, you're like, no, 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 don't go do this thing. Don't go do that. Don't send this text message. Don't go engage in this stupid behavior. Don't do something that's counter to what is going to benefit you. But you're like inside of there, the real you, the mogul you is kind of like watching the movie of what your not self, your lower self, the parts of you that are not your mogul self, this programming and is doing. Okay? And this makes sense because when we come into this world, to understand, while we are effectively, new into this world, we've also been taking in the programming through, through being in our mom, whatever the programming is of the world. By the time we come in, we've got some programming that's happened. And right away, we begin being in the environment and taking in the programming of the world and what's going on in that time. And it starts to program us into who we are, what we're going to be. And there's lots of good programming that's coming from all the universal energy sources and the powers of evolution that are happening. And yet there's also the programming of the human reality, which is where the humans create a lot of programming that's not ideal. And it's also designed to benefit certain people and not benefit others. And it's like benefit certain people in power and then essentially not benefit the masses. So the likelihood is, unless you were born into a very particular high level family with lots of privilege, you are probably part of the masses. The numbers are with that. Most people are. So your programming is the programming of potentially of the lower level, of the mass population, of the people that are being directed in a certain life program, a certain prescription for reality. And they're being corralled through a system of do this, do this, do this, do this, and follow this prescription, do this, do these things, buy these things, like everything that is prescriptive that gets you to do a bunch of stuff that benefits a bunch of other people, and where you can see the data. I mean, I'm not making it up. You can see the benefits of how well does that work for the mass population, right? So the programming that's been going on for many generations, where the system and the powers that be are programming the mass population for certain programming. All we have to do is take a look and go, what's the data? How's it working? To know, is that programming good? Right? Do this, do that. Baby's born, do this, buy this, all this stuff. Go send them here, send them there. And what we have is in the survival of the fittest, a certain minority population can rise out of that programming and still be very successful. But typically they're telling the story of how awful it was and what they had to overcome, coming through that. So, it's not all that complicated when you understand that the mass population versus a privileged few who are running everything, the mass population goes through what we call childhood, being programmed, and then it continues throughout our whole life. And for most people, it's pretty traumatic. And we think, oh, it's mom, it's dad, but it's the whole system. It's programming them, and then they're programming you, and you're taking everything in. So programming is real. The prescription, this is what to do. And again, you're getting all that programming where you're getting the universal forces programming you into what evolution intended you to be. That's why you were brought into this world. Like, here's more humans to keep growing this human race. because the laws of physics are, right, that an object in motion stays in motion. So the idea is that it keeps going on. So you come in and you get programming from the evolutionary forces, the energy field. That's our galaxy. Planets are moving, doing things. You're taking that in. That's the programming that's designed to give you all of the direction to evolve and be amazing, just like it does plants, other creatures. It's like telling all of Earth, all of the galaxy what to do. Just trying to make it more expansive for you guys. And then there's the programming of how man, women, humans have interpreted this, where we're still very primitive. We are a very new species compared to the billions of years that life has existed. And we get that programming too. And we get that prescription. And it's like, do this, like afraid to bust out of that programming. So they just keep doing it, even though they're like, this shit is not working. Right. And it's based on very old knowledge that is not the same as when you get all the new information that is trying to come in each day and it's telling us, make this, create that, create Apple, create the computer, create AI, like all the information that's coming in and telling us what to do so we can just be on easy street. But then you have all the previous programming, and then everybody's so programmed for that. The lag time is so terrible. And then everybody's like, I don't want to be the one that's different, even though what we know is that the people who program receive great intelligence from the universe and then put it into play. They're the ones changing the world and leading it for the better. And yet the mass population has the worst programming that you need to overcome. And it's absolutely playing on one of the core human needs, which is the need for belonging, which is understandable in our programming, that our need for belonging is like in the tribe, like, hey, I need to make sure there's another being around. I need to make sure like we're collaborating. But that got taken to a whole nother level, which is like, I don't want to be the different one because someone's going to ostracize me and then I won't be in the tribe, even though there's plenty of resources around. And now in these days, it's the people that are different that we all regard and revere. We're watching them on YouTube and all of this stuff. But the programming says, even though this shit is absolute crap, and if it worked at a certain point, which it probably was the programming for a certain era, it's not working anymore. But we go, even though most people, for example, most people hated their school experience, like hated it. Minority of the population liked it. Even though most people hate it, think it's crap, don't think it's good, we're not necessarily seeing a mass population of people turn out of the school system and go, look at these stellar people, right? It's not the case. It's that the people who go into the new amazing programming rise out of that pack of the struggle people, and they do something different. They think differently. They receive the programming. They put something different into reality. They're willing to be different. But the data goes, this is not working. And if we're really real with ourselves, and I'm just using examples that everybody knows about, it's like, this is actually hurting people. We could really look at it and take it a step further, which I know may be very controversial to people. It's actually hurting people. People go into this situation, they get traumatized, they get bullied. They're being taught by people that are not moguls, who know how the world is really run at its best. These are not leader. I mean, there's some beautiful, amazing teachers. God bless them. And the ones that taught me stuff, they're lovely. But the programming of our early, like our total self that's being created at the earliest ages and getting cemented is not programming of people that are top moguls saying, let me walk you through the ways of the world. Here's how finance works. Here's how mortgages work. Here's how relationships work. Like, this is not, the programming is not, the systems programming is not teaching you to tap into your inner mogul, which is what we're doing today. So why this is important is that your inner mogul is in there. Good programming is coming from the evolutionary process that says, make this new thing, do this new thing, move on, upgrade, get your software update. But the mass population is so programmed to do this other thing that is so inefficient, so slow. It's raising cattle. We all know that it's not designed to support each person's unique genius. So it's just like, send your kids in here, they're cattle. We're going to teach them stuff that we've always taught them, and maybe a little update here or there. But that programming likely happened to you. And none of the programming is really mapping to what people need to do to be successful. And let's just boil down some basic mogul stuff here. If you want to be the master, not a slave, we need to be taught to be an amazing entrepreneur. And let's just make it even better, to be an amazing mogul, powerful, influential, leading person. That would be more ideal to teach us that, to program us that way, which is what we're doing. It's not teaching us how to have amazing, like, holistic, comprehensive health within ourselves. It's not teaching us how to have amazing dynamics in our relationships and very powerful power couple relationships full of purpose. It's not teaching us how to, like, respect ourselves. Most of school is like, you get to a certain point, it's like drugs and alcohol and just nonsense and drama and just bullshit. Waste of time, waste of years. It's not teaching us to think about what kind of creations we want to make, what kind of innovations want to come through us into the world. It's not teaching us how to build an epic empire and to lead and steward an amazing multi-generational family dynasty where generation after generation, people are healthy and wealthy and successful and creating something that is beneficial and that makes you very, very secure and stable for many generations to come in your family, so that you can then do all kinds of amazing things you want to do and add to the world in better ways, the way you see all the moguls do, which is why we want to tap into our inner mogul, right? All the top moguls get so far ahead with how they program themselves. They get rid of the old programming. That's what my career has been about, is helping people become their top mogul self, replace old programming with new programming. And they all go on to have so much, capacity for security and everything, that they can then add tons and tons of stuff to the world. That are all their passion projects, their creations, everything they want to get up to, everything they want to contribute. So in this first piece, we got to understand that to tap into that inner mogul is so important, because the programming we've been given since the beginning, where most people's earliest trajectory, the mass population's earliest trajectory, I mean, you just talk to literally anyone you know, and you can even just watch as people have transcended it and they're on, like, podcasts and stuff. The earliest trajectory is horrific, traumatic. And even though people are downplaying it because they don't want to hurt their parents' feelings, and we're all protecting that, it's because it also isn't, it's the best they knew how to do. Well, it's also because they were getting programming to this fucked up prescription that is not about being a mogul, that is not about tapping into their amazing inner mogul genius and building a mogul reality as a power couple, building empires and multi-generational dynasties like the top people have in history. It's programming them for this. They're traumatized from their upbringing through this weird system, slave system, and then they're traumatized trying to do what they need to do while that system is bearing down on them. And then it's like, oh, you're in the world. You need to do all this stuff. You effectively needed to be taught to be a mogul from your earliest programming, and you've been taught to be a slave. You've been, instead of a master, you've been taught to be a slave. You hate your life. If everybody keeps it real, mass population, people for. And then you got a kid and you're hoping to, like, this is the chance we have to do it right, but the system is like bearing down on you. Your old programming is keeping you stuck. You're a hamster on a wheel, and you end up through the same system that's traumatizing your parents every day. They end up traumatizing you and putting you in the same system to program you into being a slave instead of a master and a mogul. And it goes on and on and on, because that's the system of, you're the cattle and we're grooming you so you'll do whatever we want you to do. That's what the powerful people do. And that's why I'm inviting you to tap into your inner mogul and start to connect to your power. Start to be able to do that so you can achieve health, wealth, and success. So in this, again, this first point that is still what we're focused on right now is to fully understand that you have programming that is effectively in your DNA now. It got cellularly integrated into your DNA, woven in there, because you were so immersed with it from the time you were born, from even before that. It's atmospheric, it's osmotic, it gets internalized. And even though when I look at people's human design systems to see what they were really born to be and what the evolutionary forces in the universe and God is creating this new person to be so they could bring humanity forward and upward, that amazing self, which is your own actual human design and your purpose, gets programmed over. That gets overridden. And yet we all know that inner mogul is inside of you, because that's the one that is holding on to your hopes, dreams, ambitions. That's the one that feels like, oh my God, I'm inside of here, but I have to play this weird game. Even when I try to emerge as somebody higher, the systems will bop me on the head telling me, no, you got to be like this, follow this prescription or you're fucked. Excuse my language. And then everyone around you keeps reinforcing, oh my God, no, don't be different. Be like us. We want you to be like us. That's what it is. They're programmed it's all programmed in to keep you at that level. That's where you're more controllable. You can be divided, conquered, extracted from, enslaved, and they can get you to do what they want. You can be terrorized, and then we're going to sell you everything you need to we're going to lower your frequency, then sell you going to give you a commercial, going to give you the horrible news and give you the commercial to give you an upgrade all throughout your life, which are false, fake upgrades, because they're temporary and they help someone else, but they don't really help you with the core foundational issue, which is your programming is off and you're tuning into negative programming and you're addicted to it. Oh my God, if you don't watch this, you're not going to know what's going on. Good. You don't want that in your psyche. So we got to know that your inner mogul is in there. It's saying, I want to do this. I want to build this. I want to create this. I want to, release this piece of art. I want to create this invention. I want to solve this problem. I want to operate at my top level. Like, this is the part of you that's in there. The inner mogul's like, I want to be this. I want to be that. I know that that's my real ideal reality. And we've got to connect with that inner self, because that self, that mogul self, we got to kind of get another level of real here, moguls. That mogul self has been effectively buried and has just got enough of a voice to keep, saying, oh my God, I can see these other people looks like they're living so much better. They're living this better dream. And then you're so programmed for the other thing that as soon as you say that, your inner mogul tries to say, let's do that. Get me out of here. Get me into the new reality. Then the programming from the system comes in and says, oh, you can't do that. That's scary. That's uncertain. People may not like you. They may be upset with you when you say something with you when you get really successful and you're exactly what they've been giving you your whole life, which is it's scary out there. Follow the system. Don't use your own mind. There's nothing that is like telling you to branch out and be so different, which is really awkward. Like different shouldn't even mean different. It's like be your actual self. Now, before I move into a little bit more of this and into another area, if you don't know what your human design operating system is and what you are, you're operating without some really valuable pieces of information. Now, one of the areas that I've got that information on is you can go to one of my websites, theempirecompany.com, click on human design, input just a little information about yourself, and it's going to kick out, letting you know what you are and what and who. Tells you your design, the what you are, the who, how you do what you do, and it gives you all of this information about what you are here, what your purpose is, what were you born to do. It's not a mystery. The human design framework of understanding humanity has been around since the 80s. An amazing gentleman, Ra Uru Hu, began to receive these downloads. And instead of being like, just like the example I'm giving you, instead of him going like, well, no, this doesn't make sense, and letting the old programming just keep him stuck, he was like, holy shit, I'm going to take this in. I'm going to let this thing tell me what it is. And he did what we're all here to do at the absolute best of what we are. He let the framework and the information and the intelligence come in, tell him, this is what this is. This is how humans are. This is how the whole system. And he just decided, he put everything else aside. He's like, I will be the vessel for this. I will be the channel for this. And he just let it come through. And it just gave itself to him. Much like every other book, every other framework in the world. And I laugh sometimes when people are like, oh, I don't know. It's like, where do you think everything's coming from? Right? Edison's inventing the light bulb. He's getting the directions from the evolutionary forces and God and however you want to refer to it. I refer to it as God as well. And it's up to you. What's your higher power and source, what you refer to it as. So this information on you is going to tell you, are you a manifester? Are you a generator? Are you a manifesting generator? Are you a reflector? Are you a projector? And I am a projector. To give you a little bit about me before I go into a little bit further of these upgrades. I am a projector, which is the newest kind of human, which just also so happens to be what Thomas Edison is. And his era really ushered in the first era of the projectors on the planet. Projectors are advisors, guides, visionaries, and our sole purpose, there are 22% of us in the population, is to raise the frequency of humanity into a success frequency. And we all have different parts of it. Some projectors are energy projectors like me. Some are mental projectors. Some are self-projected projectors. And all of us have a different set of purposes. All my human design codes are about power, prosperity, power couples, dynasties, empires, altruism, all kinds of stuff. And then some of my clients, it's about love, royalty, bliss, rapture, sacrifice, respect, honor. It varies from person to person. That's why everybody is receiving the energy flow that comes from the universe. It comes through and then it filters through your system into the world. And then you express this being. So why that's important, everyone, is at its best, it's meant to literally work like this channel system. It's like the universe has its directions. It's saying, here's what they are. It's coming through, and it's meant to like come through us, almost like like a colander or something. That's the best example I have. It's like supposed to come through into the world, and we're meant to express it. And yet, the problem is the programming that we get from the world that gets on top of our inner mogul, which we have to tap into, then gets all gunky and gets in the way of that. And then the energy comes in, it's trying to give us, and it's saying, go create this amazing thing. And for the people who receive the new programming, it's like able to come in because they're aware what's happening. They can follow it. They get to have all the fun and create all the amazingness. And for those that are programmed too low, and then even when they get the upgrades like you're getting right now, some of them, their programming is so bad, their programming will just have them ignore it. Like some of you will just ignore this, even though it's being channeled in directly for your upgrading. And the programming gets so bad and so low, and you stay in the same ass system. And most people are programmed to live in the same zip code they came up in, and the same exact people, Groundhog Day, Groundhog Month, Groundhog Life, and it just keeps them stuck. And so the new information is coming in that bangs up against the bad programming. And the people who were like, oh my God, amazing new intelligence. Let's create this. Let's create this company, internet, AI, media, whoever got the info for the TV and the radio and all of that, the light bulb, all, Edison. And he's a perfect example because he was like tuned into that programming, and he was ignored. People are like, oh, you should go on this, you should do this, you should be on all these vacations, you should do. That dude was like, he's a projector like me. He's like getting the directions going, this is my focus. I'm here to bring light to the world. I'm here to light the world. And this is what led to me even being able to be on this computer. That guy's getting it. And then the programming of the world that you're used to, that's on top of your inner mogul that you've got to tap into, is like, follow this other prescription and be like this. And you should be perfect at 72 different things, which is impossible. And he's like, listen, this is my purpose. And people say, well, he wasn't always there for his family. The reality is that's programming. And while that's all beneficial, hey, I want that too. When you're following the programming of your purpose, it's not necessarily going to be balanced because you've got a particular role. Some other people might have the role to be this way and that way, and the person that's all about love and sacrifice, and the person that's about bliss and rapture, and whatever the focus is for that person's human design. But for some people, it's about a variety of different things, and that's their design. That's their purpose. So the programming of the world says everybody's supposed to do all these same things together, which is ludicrous. And if you connect to the collective, which is a very important paradigm, if we just take, say, a human body and we say, let's make an analogy to the collective of humanity. Within the human body, it's one system, which is what we are as well, by the way. But there's all these different parts. There's the liver's cells and the role. There's the hearts. There's the brain. There's the eye. Every part has a very particular role with a very particular strategy and very particular properties. And each human is like that in the system. Right? And we're not saying, hey, eyeballs, do the same thing as teeth. We're not saying, hey, lips, do the same thing as your stomach. This is like so bizarre to me that we're like, oh, you need to all do the same thing. That's only coming from a very primitive perception because we are a primitive society who is typically afraid of anything they don't fully understand. So they're easily controlled. And because humans, And this is, again, part of why the programming is on top of your inner mogul that you've got to tap into and bring out. The programming, everyone, is like the people that are running everything are also scared to death of how hysterical humans can be because they don't understand certain things, and they're not understanding, hey, tune on in to what messages you're being given from the universe, from God, and follow that. And like, people could be so overwhelmed by that it's like, oh, let's just program them all to do the same thing. So there's more I can say about that, but you are at the effect of that programming. Tell your hand to do what your foot does. And then it's like, wait, but if my hand acts like my foot, it'll be another foot, but who's running the hand? Who's running the hand jobs? I love that. I love it. Right? Where it's like, oh no, we gotta follow our direction. So this is tapping into your inner mogul, knowing your human design, knowing what your role is. Because if everything's feet and no hands, no wonder our whole reality is jacked up. And yet it's like, well, I'm afraid, but I don't know how to do this. It's like, well, your role here is to learn what, first and foremost, let's make sure you do get your human design chart. And also there's more info in this video's description. That is your role. And again, also, we're going to have different links. This video is going to go on for years. We're going to have different links for different human design resources to be able to make sure you look at them in the description. We're actually building an app. The company's building its own app for human design, the human design experience. And so your inner mogul is effectively like buried alive. And I want you to start to tap into it. Okay. So if you understand that all of that programming, do this, do this, do this, do this, here's your fairy tale books, la, 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 someone's going to save you. The poor dudes are just programmed that they have to fricking save everybody. And then the females are programmed that they have to be damsels in distress and get saved. But then it's super confusing because that doesn't work. And you got all this weird programming rather than like, let's just be moguls, be powerful, influential, resourced, highly intelligent. Doesn't mean it's going to take away from these different ways that the genders are supposed to express themselves into the world to create reality. But anything where it's been like, oh, we're going to manipulate, like if we just take female programming where the male patriarch has literally programmed females, instead of letting females be as powerful as they are, which they once were in certain eras of humanity, and they were ruling everything and kicking butt. The patriarchy changed all that and reprogrammed females into being weaker people who are following instead of absolutely being co-pilots, even though they're 51% of the population. So in the world of like, here it is, there's this gender and this gender, we say this is equally important. The universe itself made it a 51-49 ratio. So we've got programming that programs females to be lower, and then the minority of the men are lifting females up and really celebrating them, and then a majority of the men are absolutely treating them at a lower level on a variety of ways, right? I mean, don't even get me started on the fact that most killers and murderers and serial killers are men, and that women are not necessarily still safe on this planet from men. And you know, in a business transaction, I can still feel it as a female. So we've got really difficult programming, and all of you are here to tap into your inner mogul that is inside of you, that is like, oh my God, no matter how much of that toxic bullshit I got taken in by osmosis, and it's like in my cells, and I'm just so miserable from it, exhausted from it. And even if you're doing better than most of the people you know around you, you can see it's not great. We've got to tap into that inner mogul and bring that inner mogul through. And I like this example, like of like the Star Wars movies where Han Solo gets like frozen into that container thing, and then eventually they like unfreeze him and he's in there. That's what I think about as your inner mogul's in there, and it's like, uh, I'm just following all this other shit that I'm being told to do. I don't like it. It's miserable. Makes me anxious and depressed, overwhelmed. It doesn't feel like it's working. No one around me seems to be okay with it. Everybody's pretending. You're pretending. And it's got so deep into your DNA from the beginning, which things do. And good news is we're still in there and we can detox from that and reprogram if we're mogul and if we are willing to bring that mogul through so it can emerge and surface of you as you. So that part of you that's just like, I'm doing all this stuff, but my truth, my truth is this is my dream. And then the dream feels like it's so far away. It's so big. It's so crazy. It's only because you are so far buried inside, like the Han Solo thing. You're so trapped in there with all the layers of programming. Like every time you try to get out, there's another layer that's like, oh no, you can't do that. Oh wait, I can too. There's another layer. Oh, you're too old. There's another layer. Oh, you're a female. There's another layer. Oh, you're 40. There's another layer. Oh, you came from a bad family. There's another layer. Oh, it's winter. You're inside of there. And every moment you try to emerge to get more where your dream and you can just be on equal footing instead of it being like, I'm so small in here and it's so big I could possibly do it. It's literally because the program, just think of it as layers and layers. You're like literally buried under there. And that means your bandwidth as a mogul, your bandwidth is like, you're not even, as they say, like 10% of your brain. You're not using 10% of yourself because you're carrying all that programming. And every moment you get a little bit more conscious because you can't stand it being stuck in that. So you get more conscious. You learn something, you get more conscious. Something peaks. You go, oh my God, that's interesting. That person said that. Or you get new information that comes into you from the universal evolutionary forces and you go, that's what I want to do. And then you're excited. You feel better. And every time my clients are like, it's like they feel so good when they're connected to their purpose, their dreams, their desires, their ambitions, and the creations they're here to create. They literally look like, oh my God, this is the real person's right here finally. And then we have to work on the fact that then they have layers of programming and doubt and fear and wait, but it can't work. Wait, it does not compute. I'm supposed to have to kill myself. I can't possibly do something that is easy. I am told I have to work hard, kill myself, or I am not a valuable person to anybody. No. You know that the most amazing thing about moguls is they're not working hard. They're working intentionally. They're creating more and more reality that is more and more leveraged so that they do a little and a lot happens that is beneficial to them and other people. That's the mechanism. Imagine if we were trained that. You do a little, you create a lot for you and everybody else, you're a mogul. Imagine if we got that programmed into us, because whatever programming comes in makes reality. So we can program anything in there. Literally anything. It doesn't matter what's happening in the world. You can program anything. Just be willing to take the programming in, to be willing to be different, to be willing to bring that inner mogul through and say, what's the mogul programming? And let's put that one in there for today. That's another step on the path. And that programming is just like that. I can be intentional, do a little, it creates a lot for me and others. And that is the path of a mogul. Highly influential, powerful. Because remember, when you're in your mogul self, you're in power. So everything you do has all this extra bandwidth, which is why you do need to be intentional, because it'll create all kinds of things if you're not completely knowing what you want it to create. But when you're buried inside yourself and you can't tap into that inner mogul, you're not empowered. There's only a little bit of you that's functioning. And you're just, as they say, you're carrying baggage, you're carrying that programming. So we all know what it's like. Let's just take a moment to check in, because to tap into the inner mogul, we need to know that we've got the programming. Check, you've got that. And now you know that you've got to literally upgrade the programming. So each time when you go, this is what I'm here to do, this is awesome. And then you go, that's great. You feel good for 5 minutes. And then you start, all the other programming comes in that says, you can't do this, you don't do that. Or it comes through a friend, or it comes through whoever. You're going to know that those are just the layers of programming. And in fact, the people in your life reinforcing to you that you can't do something, or the lower level programming, and they're like, oh my God, no, you can't do this. You have to do this. You have to follow the script. I'm going to blow your mind here for a moment. Imagine if they are simply holographic reflections of all the bad programming you've had. And so then it's not just that it's in you, it's that now that programming has created such a reality that there are people around you that speak it to you, because your negative programming literally brought them in, because that's what that programming does. It brings in people that are going to be of that programming. But when you get new programming that allows your inner mogul to meet those crappy programs and go, that's a layer, I'm going to replace it. So like, oh, the layer of doubt, right? And now we go, oh, I'm replacing that. I'm replacing it with clout. Now there's a layer, oh, other people are going to be upset with you because you're not doing the status quo. What do I going to replace it with? I'm a mogul and I'm going to make a bunch of dough. I'm just making this up as I go here. Knowing that you're just, as you're trying to get out and tap into your inner mogul and let your inner mogul out to run your reality, that it's going to hit all the layers that are effectively imprisoning it. And if you've got that ability to like hack down the weeds of that inner programming, and also the parts of you that programming created, because there are multiple parts of you, the saboteur, the doubter, the downer, then you can meet that programming and those parts, and you can transform them with different transformational technologies, which is what we do in my coaching company, which I have done for years as a psychologist, Wall Street Journal bestselling author, TED speaker, success coach, transformer, CEO, and ultimately a reprogrammer of humans and their realities, and a builder of their most intentional reality. So now if we understand that every time you try to move a step forward and you try to like emerge and tap into that inner mogul and let them out, it's okay to know there's going to be the programming that comes up to go, yeah, that's going to be a lot of hard work. It's not going to work out. Oh, interesting. That's that program. Let's check in with that. Does it have to be? Aren't there plenty of people in the world who are moguls, who are literally sitting there with the cabana, having, cash roll in as they're changing the world? Yes, that's their programming. What did they do? They reprogrammed themselves to be moguls. That's what we do in my company. That's what we do on this channel. So stay tuned. If every time you 100% are willing to know that this is programming, and then parts of yourself are internal, and they are all of these parts that are made out of that programming that end up becoming almost like these personalities inside of you. More on that in other videos, by the way. And then this over your lifetime brings in people that represent those inner programs and parts. And they're just reflecting to you holographically what your programming is, which is why when you raise your programming, tap into that inner mogul, let them out so you can achieve the health, wealth, and success. It starts to bring in higher level people, and it also starts to dissolve relationships with lower level people. And while that can sound a little harsh, those are representations of your lower programming. And the more we see it as that, the more we understand the matrix of reality, the laws of physics, and we don't get so attached to this. Again, I know it can seem very controversial, but I'm going to invite you to consider it. Your entire reality and everyone in it is a holographic representation of your internal reality, where you do have inside of you your human design and your amazing innate programming and all the codes for you to live out your highest destiny and emerge as that mogul into reality and create a higher reality. And then you've got the layers of programming that we're here to overcome today and have the ability to hack down those weeds and upgrade that program as it comes in to doubt you, and upgrade that part of you that comes in to constrict you, or avoid or procrastinate or whatever it is. So we're tapping into that inner mogul by going, hey, I know you're in there. And you know why I know why? Because your dreams are still alive. Your desire is still there. You're still yearning. You still have hope. Could be fading depending on who you are, but you're in there and you have all these great ideas. There's a whole self that wants to be what it's supposed to be, and it is blocked in, caged in by the programming. And I'm willing, this is the mogul leadership here and the mogul commitment. I'm willing to go through every layer of programming that is just part of the cage that I am living in, that the inner mogul is in there trying to bust out and come through. So the way you know how many layers are there is that when you have a connection to the greatest ideas and desires and feelings and dreams, and you, through whatever purpose, either it's still alive in you and you're yearning for it, or somebody inspires you and you connect to it and you go, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to do. Or you do some sort of a coaching or therapeutic process that, like in our company, we are constantly connecting to people's intentions, immersing them in that, having them live in the bubble of that. And they're like, oh, this is it. This is my truth. And then what you can see is any part of them that, oh, but how can this work? This may not work because someone may not like it. This may not work because someone may not buy it. And you can see all the layers. And then we start to do what we're doing right here, right now, is we can first identify it as programming and an auto response that keeps your inner mogul from emerging and living completely and running everything for you, because there is one inside of you. There is a powerful, influential being inside of all of you who can be that mogul, which is just a term for powerful, influential being. It's just a shortcut to say it. And it's fun. And I like it. And it rhymes with a lot of things. So it works. It's a great identity. It's where we are in humanity. We say, this person's an amazing mogul. What really are we saying? Sure, it can be thought of about business, but let's break it down. They're just leaders of humanity influencing us. It happened to be a business, but there's tons of positively influential people. We're still reading their quotables, even if they haven't lived for 500 years. So the willingness to move through those layers of programming and the parts that got created, the part that is the avoider, the part that is the child, right? Because that's the whole other subject matter that we'll be going into throughout the continuous growth process we're doing with this channel for people who want to go from people who are leaders or aspiring leaders to moguls, people who want to go from struggle to mogul. So let's just have you connect to the fact that every time you are feeling like you want to, expand, do something you're excited about, do something different, or do the thing you really always wanted to do. This is the worst programming there is in the world. And then everything is telling you why you can't do that. And yet your innate inner mogul is saying, this is who you are. And then then there's the people that go try it and it doesn't work out. It's not that it wouldn't work out. It's not that it couldn't work out. It's not that we need that to be like, yeah, see, this dude tried to run his own business and it failed. See, no. It's that when he went to do it and his real mogul self was trying to do it, he was still doing it with the shitty programming that he still needed to upgrade. So it doesn't mean it wouldn't work eventually or it wouldn't work. It's just that that's the challenge everyone has, is when you go to do the next level thing, you got the programming from the previous reality and the previous self and parts of you that got created out of this traumatic reality that most people come up in. So it's not an indicator that your real self, your mogul self, can't do its thing. It's that if you just go to do the thing, but you don't do the reprogramming, you may go do the effort. This is why tons of people's stuff fails. You go do the effort, but you're doing it with the old programming still. So part of you, the real mogul you, tries to go do it, but the old programming is still running you. Or you're in parts of your life where you're like, I'm doing this mogul thing. I've literally been here. Like, I can literally write a book on this subject. It's doing the mogul thing. But then in some other part of my life, in some dysfunctional relationship with some family member or partner or whatever, that is just part of that old programming played out, and then have these different realities. And if you're doing any of that and then trying to create a whole new reality, it'll just keep repeating. The dysfunction is so much stronger from so many years and generations of programming that some construction going out here on the Dubai Marina. I don't know if you can hear it, but the programming will be so strong that even when you're doing tons of the right things, the old programming will play itself out, because deep down, the programming is in you telling you it really can't work out. So we've got to reprogram that so that all of our programming is only mogul programming, top leadership, top intentionality, highest levels of purpose, highest levels of reality, going toward our ultimate destiny. We have to go for the real thing and know that it's not so, oh my God, it's not so far away and so big from where you are. It can seem like that, but that's only because your inner mogul is buried so far inside. But if you reprogram yourself, you'll be right there connected, and you'll go, oh my God, this dream and I are on the same playing field. We're right there together. So we're really, the encouragement here is to recognize and understand that your inner mogul is alive and well. You are already existing with everything to be able to live a life that is so amazingly high level. And yet, the old programming that says you can be in some low identity, you can be in some low reality, you can be in some low programming, and try to do all that by being stuck and caught and trapped in that and still buying into it and not actively, proactively on a daily lifestyle, reprogramming and upgrading yourself. It's like, that's the reason that it can be difficult. It's not that it actually is all that difficult. You can see the difference between the top moguls of the world. They just have different programming. So the encouragement, everyone, is to continue to grow in reprogramming so that your inner mogul that you want to tap into can emerge. And all the layers can get reprogrammed that are on top of that inner self, that literally wants to express itself. It wants to get out of jail. It wants to run with the big dogs. It doesn't want to be a traumatized child or a conquered slave in the system. It wants to express its purpose and make its massive mogul contribution. So reprogramming is absolutely the way to go to tap into your inner mogul. Staying in your intentions, high levels of intentionality, immersing in them. And if anybody reflects to you any of that garbage programming, you just know that's some part of you reflecting that back to you. But that's just coming from the old programming, and you lean further into transforming all the yucky programming, replacing that. Now, one of the ways as we wrap up here today that you can do that is you can keep tuning into all the content on this channel that's going to be created day in and day out. You can attend the lives that are on this channel. You can attend the videos. You can watch the videos. You can join the International Moguls Club community on YouTube. All the links are there in this description of this video. You can connect with us at theempirecompany.com and soon to be a new website called the International Moguls Club. And lots of ways to connect that are in the description here of this from. If you commit to reprogramming yourself and making that highest priority, and literally going to be, I'm here releasing content each and every day and creating opportunities for people to grow like this. You have the ability to transform years and years and generations behind you of lower level programming that is all about the struggle, and program yourself into being a mogul and tap into that inner mogul and let it out of slave jail. But it's going to take the consistency, and it's going to take learning how to reprogram yourself each and every day, which will then not be a difficult thing to do. It'll just be part of the way that you upgrade yourself so that you can be free, wealthy, healthy, powerful, successful, influential, living your life as a mogul, a power couple, building your empires and dynasties, and really making that most legendary contribution to society where you can leave an amazing legacy. All right, so this is your upgrade for today. Thanks for tapping into your inner mogul. Please go ahead and like and subscribe, which helps us continue to be able to support you and be able to bring this ability for you to be more influential and more powerful. And share this with somebody that needs this upgrade to understand what's going on with them, how to tap into their inner mogul, how to move beyond a life of struggle, and how to do that in a time that is so transformational that the only sane strategy to do, which is a strategy of a mogul, is to do rapid transformation day in and day out until you are at a level where you have so much momentum that force is taking you with it. It's so it's so powerful and flowing that you will be able to take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit. All right, everyone. So this is my mogul upgrade for all of you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.